He was a ruthless Mafia boss, until one night he checked his old mansion's cameras and froze. His ex was there, asleep on his bed, with twins that looked exactly like him. But when he tried to reach her, bullets shattered the truth he thought he knew. What if the woman he once loved was hiding the secret that could destroy his entire empire? Watch till the end. The truth will break your heart. The night spread across the city like spilled ink, cold, heavy, and merciless. From his glass-walled office at the top of a skyscraper, Collingwood sat motionless, the faint hum of the city below doing little to calm the storm inside him. His cigar rested between his fingers, the ember glowing like a heartbeat that refused to die. Smoke coiled upward, blurring the reflection of his own face on the window, the face of a man everyone feared but no one truly knew. His eyes, sharp and gray, flickered toward the security monitors lined across his desk. He'd ordered them reconnected to his old mansion, a place buried under years of silence, a graveyard of memories he once vowed never to visit again. Yet, when his men reported a break-in, something in him shifted, a pull he couldn't ignore. The footage began to play, lines of static rolling over the dark, grainy images. The mansion appeared just as he remembered, grand yet lifeless, every corner soaked in dust and forgotten echoes. Collingwood leaned forward, elbows resting on his desk, his pulse calm but his knuckles whitening against the edge. The hum of the old camera system was almost nostalgic, like a whisper from the past that shouldn't have returned. Then, one of the feeds flickered. Faint movement in the bedroom. His breath caught. The same bedroom where he'd last seen Florina, his wife, his obsession, his ruin. For years, he had told himself she was dead. He had buried her in rage, drowned her in whiskey, and sealed her memory behind blood-soaked walls. But what he saw next tore every lie apart. There she was, Florina, asleep on his bed, the same bed they once shared, beneath the same ceiling that had heard their laughter and their war. The moonlight spilled gently across her face, softening her features, illuminating the same skin he used to trace with his fingertips. Collingwood's hand froze halfway to his cigar, eyes narrowing as disbelief gave way to something far more dangerous: hope. He leaned closer, pressing a button to zoom in, his breath fogging the screen. Her hair was longer now, tangled but still golden under the light. But what made his pulse hammer wasn't just her. It was what lay beside her. Two small figures curled close, sleeping soundly, their tiny chests rising and falling in rhythm. Twins. For a moment, Collingwood couldn't move. The world felt as if it had stopped breathing. His throat tightened, words trapped somewhere between disbelief and dread. One of the twins stirred, rolling toward Florina, and in that brief movement his heart nearly burst. The child's face came into view, the same jawline, the same dark lashes, the same slight frown he wore as a boy. He blinked hard and his chest ached as if a blade had been twisted inside. "No," he whispered under his breath, voice raw and trembling. "It can't be." The great Collingwood, the man who had killed kings in the underworld, who ruled empires without mercy, felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. A flicker of static cut the feed for a second, pulling him back to the present. When it returned, Florina moved slightly, wrapping her arm protectively around the twins. The gesture pierced him deeper than any bullet ever had. He saw not just the woman he lost, but the life he was denied. The world outside thundered, lightning streaking across the skyline, but inside, Collingwood's silence was louder. Every memory came crashing back. The night she disappeared, the lies his men told, the endless search that led nowhere. He had broken bones and burned cities to find her, but all trails had turned cold, until now. He leaned back slowly, cigar forgotten. His breathing uneven, his mind spun like a loaded revolver. Who brought her there? How did she find her way into the mansion he'd abandoned? And whose children were they really? His blood roared in his ears as possibilities twisted through him like venom. Betrayal, conspiracy, lies. He knew the underworld too well. No miracle came without a knife hidden behind it. He reached for his glass of whiskey, but his hand trembled too much to hold it steady. For the first time in years, the Mafia boss felt something close to weakness. Then, movement again. The screen glitched, flickered, and for a heartbeat, another shadow crossed behind the bed. Someone else was there. Collingwood's instincts snapped awake. His body stiffened, eyes narrowing at the barely visible silhouette on the edge of the frame. The shape vanished just as quickly as it appeared. He rewound frame by frame. And there it was again. A man. Tall, hidden partially in darkness, his hand reaching toward the wall. Collingwood's pulse spiked. The protective fury that once built his empire flared to life, hot and ruthless. No one had the right to step inside that room. No one had the right to be near her. He rose from his chair slowly, the leather creaking beneath him. Every motion was precise, deliberate, controlled. The calm before something violent. His reflection in the glass looked like a ghost in a tailored suit, his eyes burning with something between love and vengeance. The storm outside cracked against the glass as thunder rolled through the city. He picked up his gun from the drawer, loaded it with practiced ease, and tucked it beneath his coat. Then he grabbed his car keys, the metal cool against his palm. His jaw clenched as he muttered under his breath, "If she's real and someone's been lying to me all along." He took one last glance at the frozen screen. The image of Florina and the twins stared back like a cruel dream. Beautiful, fragile, unreal. His lips curved into a faint, humorless smile, the kind that promised hell to whoever had kept this from him. Then, just as he turned to leave, the monitors flickered once more, this time showing a close-up of the window beside her bed. Etched faintly in the fogged glass was a handprint, large, fresh, male. Collingwood's heart stopped for a beat, then started again, harder. He whispered to himself, voice low and steady, "Someone's in that house." For a brief moment he hesitated, a rare thing for a man like him. He could have sent his men, surrounded the mansion, played it safe. But something primal inside him refused. This was personal. It always had been. He slipped his coat on, stepped into the elevator, and as the doors closed, the glow from the monitors reflected in his eyes. One last time. The storm roared louder now, echoing his heartbeat. Somewhere beneath that rain, the past was waiting. Alive, breathing, and still haunting him. And as his car engine roared to life below, lightning split the sky in half. The cameras inside the mansion flickered again, this time showing nothing. The bed was empty. The woman and the twins were gone. Collingwood froze, gripping the steering wheel, his breath caught in his throat. The screen that had brought his world crashing down had just gone dark again. He whispered to the empty road, "Whoever took them just signed their death." The storm swallowed the city whole. Thunder cracked like gunfire as Collingwood's car roared down the empty highway, tires slicing through rivers of rain. His knuckles gripped the wheel until the leather groaned beneath his hands. The mansion's live feed had gone dark moments before. Florina, the twins, the shadow in the room, all vanished into nothing. Every instinct in him screamed trap, but rage burned hotter than reason. He didn't call his men. He didn't tell anyone. This wasn't business. It was blood. The iron gates of the old mansion loomed through the downpour. His headlights swept across the massive structure, casting the old house in fleeting bursts of white and shadow. The front door stood half open, creaking as the wind forced it to sway. Collingwood's heart hammered once, hard. Someone's already inside. He stepped out, coat flaring behind him, rain streaming down his face. The air was thick with electricity, not just from the storm, but from the ghosts that lived in those walls. He moved silently up the steps, the soles of his shoes sinking into puddles. The scent of wet wood and mold filled the air. Inside, the darkness felt alive. His footsteps echoed through the grand hall, bouncing off the marble like whispers. He reached into his coat, pulling his gun free. Cold steel, familiar weight. His pulse steadied. He'd killed men in darker places than this. But tonight felt different. Tonight, something unseen was watching him back. Lightning flashed through the broken windows, revealing the grand staircase and the faded portraits along the walls. His ancestors, staring down at him with painted eyes. The chandelier above swayed, the crystals chiming faintly. Collingwood's boots left muddy imprints as he moved deeper into the house, following the faintest sound, a floorboard creaking upstairs. His jaw tightened. He knew that sound. Someone was moving near the bedroom. Every step closer felt heavier. The silence wasn't empty. It was holding its breath. His flashlight beam cut across the hallway, illuminating a shattered vase, a wet footprint, and something else. A child's blanket, small and blue, lying crumpled near the stairs. His stomach twisted. The twins had been here, recently. He crouched, touching the fabric, still warm. A faint hum echoed from above, soft, rhythmic, a lullaby. His blood ran cold. That song. Florina used to sing it every night when the world still felt safe. For a moment he froze, torn between disbelief and rage. His throat tightened as a memory surfaced, her voice humming that same tune against his chest, her laughter warm and bright. But this wasn't memory, it was real. It was happening right now. He raised his gun and started up the stairs, every step deliberate. The light flickered from the storm outside, painting stripes of shadow across his face. At the top, the hallway stretched into darkness. Doors lined both sides, but only one stood slightly ajar. The master bedroom. Faint light spilled through the crack, trembling as if from a candle flame. He reached the door and paused, listening, breathing. Soft, steady, familiar. Florina. His hand trembled for the first time in years. He pushed the door gently open. The sight hit him like a blade. Florina lay on the bed, just as he remembered from the feed, asleep, fragile, beautiful in the quiet glow. The twins rested beside her, their tiny forms curled in peace. But now, seeing them in person, something inside him cracked. They weren't images on a screen. They were real. He took one step closer, his breath uneven, the scent of her skin, the sound of her soft breathing. It felt like time itself had folded in half and brought him home. But his eyes weren't blind to danger. The room was too quiet, too still. Something was wrong. The curtains by the window swayed slightly, though the glass was closed. His gaze drifted toward the corner and froze. The mirror across the room reflected more than just him. Behind his silhouette, deep in the shadows, something glinted, faint, silver, deadly. A gun. His body tensed instantly. His instincts screamed ambush. Without turning, he shifted his stance slightly, the barrel of his weapon angling downward but ready. The reflection flickered again. Whoever was there was waiting for him to move. Collingwood's voice broke the silence, cold and controlled. "If you're here for me, step out." The only reply was the slow drip of rain from the ceiling. He could almost hear the intruder breathing. Lightning flashed again, lighting the room for half a heartbeat. And in that flash, he caught a shape. A man, tall, familiar shoulders. A silhouette he'd seen 1,000 times before, once trusted without question. His voice came low, steady, almost regretful. "You shouldn't have come back, boss." Collingwood froze. His heart thudded once, heavy before his rage surged like fire. That voice, that tone, it couldn't be. He turned slowly, every muscle coiled tight. His gun raising as he whispered the name that burned on his tongue. Jack. The figure stepped from the shadows, soaked in rain, weapons still glinting under the dim light. His eyes weren't cruel. They were hollow, filled with something Collingwood hadn't expected. Guilt. For a second, the world shrank to the space between them. Two men, once bound by loyalty, now standing on the edge of something irreversible. The storm outside cracked, shaking the windows. Florina stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Collingwood's voice came out low, dangerous, trembling with restrained fury. "Tell me why you're here before I pull the trigger." Jack lowered his gun slightly, his jaw tightening. "Because you're walking into something you don't understand." Collingwood's finger rested on the trigger, eyes burning into his old friend. "Then make me understand," he growled, unaware that the real betrayal waiting in this house hadn't even begun. 3. The thunder outside cracked like the sky was splitting open. Collingwood's pulse matched it, wild and merciless, as he spun and slammed the intruder against the wall. His fist locked around the man's collar, ready to crush, until the flicker of lightning revealed a familiar face beneath the hood. His breath faltered. "Jack." The name tore out of him like a curse he never thought he'd speak again. For a heartbeat, the world shrank to that single recognition. The man who once took bullets for him, the man he buried his secrets with, now standing there with a gun and trembling eyes. Jack's weapon lowered, the metallic click echoing through the tense air. His voice was low, broken, and soaked in something deeper than fear, remorse. "Boss, I had to protect her." The word stung worse than any betrayal. Collingwood's grip tightened. "From me?" The question cracked through the silence, sharp enough to bleed the air. He saw Jack's throat move as he swallowed, searching for words that wouldn't come easy. Rain dripped through the fractured ceiling, each drop like a countdown. "You don't understand," Jack said finally, his voice frayed at the edges. "The day she left, she was carrying your children. Your enemies were already closing in. I helped her disappear." The room tilted. Collingwood's breath hitched, as if the truth had punched straight into his ribs. The rage that powered him began to twist with something heavier. Disbelief. His eyes burned as he stared at the man who'd once been his shadow. "You knew," he whispered, "all this time." Jack nodded slowly, guilt carving lines across his face. "If she stayed, they would have killed her. And them. You were too deep in the war to see it." His words cut through the storm like shards of glass. Collingwood's hands trembled against Jack's collar. The memories rushed back. The endless nights of searching, the blood he spilled, the silence that haunted every room she'd ever touched. All of it built on a lie. He shoved Jack back, the force slamming him into the dresser. "You chose her over your loyalty?" he snarled. Jack's eyes glistened in the dim light. "I chose life for them." The answer wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of 4 stolen years. For a second, neither man moved. The only sound was the low rumble of thunder rolling through the sky and the faint rustle of Florina shifting in her sleep behind them. Collingwood's chest heaved as the fury in him cracked open, bleeding into sorrow, disbelief, betrayal, all at once. Then came the whisper of another sound, faint, metallic from the shadows behind him, the unmistakable click of a safety being released. Collingwood's instincts ignited instantly. He spun halfway, eyes narrowing into the darkness, but before he could raise his gun, a silenced shot split the room. The thud was quiet, almost gentle, but its echo shattered the air. Jack's body jerked once and then collapsed, the light fading from his eyes as he hit the floor. For a heartbeat, everything stood still. The storm outside, the wind, even Collingwood's breath. The smell of gunpowder hung like a ghost. His hands hovered over his fallen friend, trembling, unsure whether to reach or to aim. He crouched beside Jack. Voice hoarse. "No, no, stay with me." Blood bloomed through the fabric of Jack's shirt. dark and spreading. Jack's lips parted, trying to form words. They found her. Before you did. His eyes flickered toward the doorway and then went still. The light in them went out like a candle caught by the wind. Collingwood's head turned sharply toward the door. The faint smell of perfume drifted through the air, not Florina's, but sharper, unfamiliar. He rose slowly, every muscle locked, his gun tightening in his grip. His reflection in the mirror looked like a ghost of himself, rain-drenched, blood-splattered, and shaking with quiet fury. Someone else was here. Someone who wanted this moment to break him. He stepped over Jack's body, eyes scanning every shadow. The wind howled through a broken pane, carrying the faintest sound, footsteps retreating down the hall, soft, quick, deliberate. Collingwood followed, each step measured, predatory. His rage was gone now. What replaced it was colder, clearer. Whoever pulled that trigger hadn't come to warn or to frighten. They'd come to silence the truth. As he reached the threshold of the hall, lightning illuminated the corridor ahead, and for the briefest moment, he saw a silhouette disappearing around the corner. Slender frame, gloved hands, purposeful stride, not a random killer, a messenger. Someone tied to the same war Jack had spoken of. Collingwood's heart hardened like steel. Behind him lay the body of a man who'd once been his brother. Ahead of him, the shadow of someone who'd stolen everything he had left. The mansion moaned under the storm, every creak echoing the ghosts of loyalty and love lost. He moved forward, gun raised, eyes sharp, whispering under his breath, "You killed the wrong man." A flash of lightning revealed fresh footprints leading toward the nursery, and the faint cry of a child pierced the thunder. The cry of a child sliced through the thunder. Collingwood froze mid-step, every instinct in him splitting between the killer's rage and a father's fear. The storm outside clawed against the windows, lightning painting flashes of chaos on the cracked walls. He followed the sound down the corridor, his gun drawn, his breath steady but heavy. The closer he moved to the nursery, the louder the soft whimpers grew, mixed with the faint, rhythmic hush of a woman's voice. That voice, the one he thought he'd never hear again, soft as a wound reopening. He pushed the door open with the barrel of his gun. The room was dim, lit only by the pale shimmer of lightning sneaking through torn curtains. Florina sat by the crib, both children pressed against her chest, her hair tangled, her eyes wide in terror. For a moment, everything inside him stopped. She looked exactly as she did the night she vanished, fragile yet fierce, her trembling hands shielding the twins from the world. His jaw tightened. The sight of her felt like mercy and punishment in one breath. She stood slowly, clutching the twins tighter, her lips parting in a whisper. Collingwood. His name broke like glass on her tongue. The sound twisted something deep in his chest, but his expression stayed carved from stone, fury mixing with disbelief. His voice was low, dangerous. "You lied to me." The words carried years of buried pain, years spent hunting ghosts, trusting no one, killing men in her name. His hand trembled slightly around the gun, but he didn't lower it. Florina's tears welled up instantly. "You wouldn't have survived if you knew," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "They wanted to use me, to destroy you." Her gaze darted toward the window, as if expecting the shadows themselves to move. Collingwood took a slow step closer, eyes sharp as blades. "They," he hissed. "Who, Florina?" The silence between them was deafening. The twins whimpered softly, their tiny fingers clutching her dress. Florina bit her lip, her shoulders trembling as she forced the truth out. "Your counsel," she whispered, "the ones you trusted most, they turned against you. They framed your empire, poisoned your name, and when I refused to stand with them, they hunted me." The air went cold. Collingwood's fingers loosened on the trigger, then tightened again. His voice broke through the silence like thunder. "My counsel?" His disbelief burned into fury. Those men built their power under my name. He stepped forward again, eyes blazing. And you left me in the dark while I slaughtered every man I thought guilty? Florina flinched at his tone, her tears spilling freely now. I saved our children the only way I could, she said, her voice cracking. If I had told you, you would have gone to war with them, and they would have killed you before sunrise. You don't understand, Collingwood. You were their target, not me. I only ran because I couldn't watch them bury you. His heart twisted violently inside him. He wanted to hate her, for lying, for disappearing, for making him live half dead for 4 years. But her words carried truth too raw to deny. He stepped closer until his face was inches from hers. His voice fell to a whisper that trembled with pain. You think I survived without you? The storm outside wailed, and for a long second, nothing existed but the sound of their breathing. Fast, uneven, desperate. Her eyes searched his face, remembering the man she once loved and the monster he had become. He reached out as if to touch her cheek, but stopped midway, his fingers trembling inches away. You could have told me, he murmured. We could have fought together. Florina's lips quivered. You don't fight councilmen, Collingwood. You bury them quietly, and I couldn't let you die trying. Her voice broke and the twins stirred against her, one of them softly whispering in sleep, Mama. That single word cracked the wall of rage inside him. He lowered the gun at last, his arm falling limply to his side. He stared at the twins, his twins, seeing reflections of himself in their small faces, realizing how much he had missed. His throat burned as if every unshed tear from the past 4 years had turned to fire. You raised them alone, he whispered, almost to himself. You hid them from the world. Florina nodded, her tears glimmering under the lightning. I hid them from your world, she said softly. The world that turned on you. The world that would have devoured them. A thunderclap shook the room, rattling the windows. Collingwood's instincts snapped back into place. His eyes flicked toward the hallway, where shadows moved faintly in the distance. The moment of emotion vanished beneath the sharp edge of danger. He turned sharply toward the window, motioning Florina to stay silent. They're here, he whispered. Florina's face paled. Who? He didn't answer. Instead, he crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling aside the curtain just enough to see the driveway below, a line of black vehicles hidden under the storm. Men with silenced weapons fanned out in formation, their footsteps splashing through puddles. The council's cleanup crew, his own men once, now traitors. His jaw tightened, eyes dark as night. He turned back to Florina, voice low but fierce. You and the kids, stay behind me. No one touches you. Florina shook her head desperately. You can't fight them all, Collingwood. They won't stop until you're gone. He smirked coldly. Then I'll stop them first. Before she could answer, a faint metallic sound filled the room, the twist of a doorknob, slow and deliberate. Florina froze, clutching the twins tighter. Collingwood raised his gun again, positioning himself between them and the door. The next sound came fast, the shattering of glass as a bullet tore through the window inches from his head. He dropped low, pulling Florina to the floor, shielding her and the children with his body as shards of glass rained over them. The twins began to cry, terrified. Florina's voice broke through the chaos, trembling. They found us! Collingwood pressed a hand against her shoulder, his eyes sharp, focused. Not us, he growled. They found me. He peered through the broken glass and caught a glimpse of a shadow moving outside. Tall, familiar, too familiar. Someone from his council. The betrayal burned hotter than the storm. Another shot rang out, tearing through the wall just inches from the crib. Florina gasped, pulling the twins close. Collingwood's mind raced. The secret passage, Jack's passage, still ran beneath the nursery floor. His pulse spiked. He dragged the rug aside, revealing the metal hatch half buried under dust. Go, he ordered. Take them. Now. Florina hesitated. What about you? He met her gaze, his eyes dark and fierce but soft at the edges. I'll follow. I promise. She slid the twins through the hatch one by one, her trembling hands brushing against his for a second, just long enough for something unspoken to pass between them. Then, as she started down, she whispered, "Please don't die, Collingwood." He didn't answer, just gave her a look that said everything. The door burst open behind him, and gunfire roared again, shredding the silence. Collingwood spun, returning fire with deadly precision. Each shot echoed like vengeance reborn. Florina's voice trembled from below the passage. Collingwood. He turned for one last glance, her face half lit by the glow of lightning, the twins' cries echoing faintly in the dark tunnel below. Then came a sound that froze his blood. A tiny, sleepy voice, innocent and unknowing. "Daddy?" He barely had time to look down before another bullet shattered the window behind him, showering the room with glass and chaos. The lights flickered out, and in the flash of lightning, the barrel of another gun appeared from the shadows, aimed straight at Florina's escape hatch. Gunfire tore through the mansion like thunder made of metal. Collingwood didn't think. He moved. His arm locked around Florina's waist as his other hand covered the hatch. "Go!" he shouted over the chaos, his voice raw with urgency. She hesitated only for a heartbeat before sliding the twins down into the darkness. The sound of their cries mixed with the echo of bullets above, turning the night into something almost unreal. Love and war colliding in one breath. Collingwood dropped last, slamming the hatch shut above them as plaster dust rained over his shoulders. The secret passage swallowed them in total blackness. The air was damp, the walls narrow, and the scent of rust and earth filled their lungs. Florina clutched one twin in each arm, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Collingwood moved ahead, flashlight trembling in his blood-stained hand. "Stay close," he ordered quietly. "Don't make a sound." The ceiling above groaned, and faint footsteps echoed. The assassin sweeping the house. Every step felt like a countdown. Florina looked up, her whisper barely audible. "They're right above us." Collingwood's jaw clenched. "Let them be," he muttered, eyes scanning the narrow path ahead. "They won't find this route. Jack built it for ghosts." The mention of Jack hit him like a spark in gasoline. For a second, the image of his fallen friend flashed before his eyes. The betrayal, the blood, the truth. He forced the thought away. This wasn't the time for ghosts. This was the time for survival. The passage stretched longer than Florina remembered. Water dripped from cracks above, each droplet echoing like a warning. Collingwood's movements were silent but purposeful, his flashlight cutting through the dark like a blade. Behind him, Florina whispered softly to calm the twins. Their small sobs broke his heart in a way bullets never could. Then, a sound. Not from above this time, from ahead. A faint metallic clank followed by the slow, rhythmic scrape of movement. Collingwood raised his hand for silence, pressing Florina gently back against the wall. He listened, heart pounding in his throat. It wasn't an echo. Someone was in the passage. He motioned Florina to take a step back. The beam of his flashlight caught something on the ground. Footprints, fresh, wet. The tunnel had already been used tonight. His eyes darkened, fury and caution mixing like storm clouds. "Someone's been here," he whispered. Florina's voice trembled. "Jack?" He didn't answer. The question was too heavy for this moment. Instead, he pressed forward, his gun ready, the light flickering with each cautious step. The tunnel turned sharply, and the faint glimmer of moonlight appeared ahead. The exit. Collingwood reached it first, crouching near the iron grate that led outside. The sound of rain pounding against the earth filled the narrow space. He looked back at Florina, his expression unreadable. "When we get out, you take the twins to the car. Don't stop. Don't look back." Florina shook her head, her voice breaking. "Not without you." He stared at her for a long moment, then gave a faint, broken smile. "You still don't listen." Before she could respond, a deafening crash echoed from above. The mansion's roof collapsing. Dust and firelight seeped through the cracks, illuminating their faces in red and gold. Collingwood kicked the grate open, the rain bursting in like freedom. He grabbed Florina's arm, pulling her into the storm. The cold rain hit like knives against their skin. Flames rose high behind them, devouring the mansion that once held their memories. The night glowed orange, reflected in Collingwood's eyes as he held the twins close for the first time. "It's over," he muttered under his breath, though his voice carried no peace, only exhaustion and grief. Florina looked back at the burning house, her lips trembling. "That was our home," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "No, Florina, that was their trap." A sudden explosion ripped through the upper floor. A firebomb planted to erase everything. The force threw them all to the ground, dirt and ash raining from the sky. Collingwood rolled, instantly covering Florina and the twins with his body. The roar of fire drowned out everything else. When the flames dimmed enough to see, he looked up and froze. His men were arriving through the rain. Black SUVs screeched to a stop near the gates, headlights cutting through the smoke. Dozens of armed men stepped out, the loyal ones, the ones who never betrayed him. Their leader, Victor, shouted through the downpour, "Boss, we got you covered!" For the first time in years, Collingwood felt the strange heat of loyalty that wasn't born from fear. He rose to his feet, blood on his face, eyes sharp again. "Secure the perimeter," he barked. "No one leaves alive." His men moved instantly, spreading out like a storm of vengeance. Florina reached for his arm, her voice trembling. "Collingwood, they'll come for us again. This won't end here." He looked at her. Rain dripping from his hair, his shirt clinging to his scarred skin, his muscles tensed like steel. "Then let them come," he said quietly. "I've been waiting 4 years to finish what they started." He turned toward the mansion, now a roaring inferno. Memories burned with it. Their wedding night, their laughter, the life they almost had. He didn't look away. "Everything I built is gone," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "But I'll rebuild. From the ashes." A flicker of movement caught his eye through the smoke. He squinted. Something shifting near the front steps of the house. A silhouette crawling from the flames. His heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be. He moved closer, ignoring Florina's plea to stop. The rain hissed against the fire, steam rising like ghosts. The figure stumbled forward, burned, bloodied, but moving. Collingwood raised his gun, ready to fire, until the light hit the man's face. Jack. Collingwood's world spun. The man who'd taken a bullet an hour ago now stood before him, drenched, coughing, alive. The impossible was walking out of the fire. Jack's voice rasped through the rain. "You weren't supposed to find out yet." Collingwood's gun lowered an inch, disbelief freezing his veins. "You're supposed to be dead." Jack wiped the blood from his mouth, his eyes hollow but burning with something fierce. "Death's a luxury your enemies don't grant anymore," he said softly. "You think the fire was meant for you? It wasn't. It was meant to erase me." The rain fell harder, mixing with ash and truth. Collingwood stared at him, torn between relief and rage. "You better start talking before I forget I ever trusted you," he growled. Jack took a slow step closer, wincing in pain. "I will. But first, get her and the kids out of here. You're not safe." Florina clutched the twins tighter, her voice breaking. "What does that mean?" Jack's eyes flicked toward the burning mansion. "They're still inside. The council's strike team. They won't leave until they've finished their job." A second explosion burst from the east wing, sending debris flying. One flaming beam crashed down just feet from them. Collingwood pulled Florina back, his body shielding hers again. He shouted to his men, "Get the cars ready! Now! Victor ran up, soaked and breathless. Boss, we've got the convoy, but we're short on ammo. Whoever's in there is armed for war. Collingwood's eyes cut toward the mansion once more, firelight reflecting in his pupils like molten steel. Then let's give them one. He turned to Florina, his voice lower, filled with promise. Get the kids to the car. Don't stop for anyone. If I don't come back... Florina shook her head fiercely, tears mixing with rain. Don't say that. You will. Their eyes locked, the chaos around them fading for a heartbeat. He leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. I always come back for you. He turned, raising his gun as his men followed him into the blaze. The sound of thunder merged with the gunfire, turning the night into war once more. Florina watched him disappear into the flames, her heart pounding like the storm itself. Behind her, the twins cried softly, too young to understand the fire that birthed their father's redemption. And then, through the burning haze, Collingwood stopped, his eyes falling to the ground near the steps. His stomach dropped. There, half buried in ash and blood, lay Jack's bullet wound. Only, there was no blood trail leading to where he stood now, no mark of injury at all. Collingwood's breath caught as realization struck. Jack wasn't just alive, he had never been shot at all. 6. Rain still poured as Collingwood stared at Jack through the rising smoke. The revelation burned in his veins. The wound that never existed, the lie that rewrote everything. Jack's eyes met his with the kind of silence that carried weight heavier than truth. The flames behind them hissed and died down, but inside Collingwood the fire only grew. He lowered his weapon slightly, his jaw tightening. You were never shot. His voice trembled between disbelief and fury. Jack didn't answer. The rain dripped from his hair, each drop a heartbeat closer to confrontation. Tell me why, Jack. Tell me before I forget we were ever brothers. Jack looked away, shoulders slumping as if carrying a burden that had no name. If I told you, he said quietly, you'd never forgive me. Collingwood's hand flexed around the gun. Try me. Jack met his gaze again, eyes hollow. Not here, they'll be watching. His words sent a chill through the air, vague, uncertain, but full of danger. Then he staggered slightly, his face pale. Florina rushed forward instinctively, but Collingwood stopped her with a sharp gesture. Stay back! Jack's voice cracked as he whispered, There's a reason you were never meant to see me alive, Collingwood. You think the council betrayed you? But the truth runs deeper than you imagine. A sudden explosion from the mansion's remains echoed behind them, a last groan from the burning past. Collingwood turned his head toward it, and when he looked back, Jack was gone. Only his footprints remained, leading into the woods, vanishing into darkness. Hours bled into dawn. The storm refused to rest. Deep within a forest safe house hidden under layers of fog and moss, Collingwood sat on a worn couch, his muscles bruised, his mind torn open by betrayal. Florina tended his wounds in silence, the smell of antiseptic blending with rain-soaked air. He winced as she pressed a cloth to a deep cut on his shoulder. She didn't speak. Her hands trembled too much for words. Finally, he broke the silence, his voice rough. You raised them alone, and I wasn't there. Florina paused, her eyes glassy with exhaustion and love. You were everywhere, she whispered. In their eyes, in their laughter, in the way they hold their heads high. That's you, Collingwood. He looked at her then, really looked. Her face was older, softer, carved by years of survival. And yet the same fire that once made him fall for her still burned behind her eyes. His throat tightened. You should have told me sooner. Tears gathered but didn't fall. And you should have come back sooner, she replied softly. The moment cracked something inside him. He reached out, his rough fingers brushing her wrist, hesitant, almost afraid. The world outside was chaos, but for one brief second, the air between them held peace. Then, The floorboards creaked. Both froze. Collingwood's hand went instantly for his gun. Florina turned toward the door, her heart pounding. The silence deepened, the kind that makes every breath sound like thunder. The door creaked open slowly, and there he was, Jack, alive, bloodied, breathing. He leaned against the doorframe, pale but steady, one hand pressed to his ribs, his eyes flicked from Collingwood to Florina, reading the tension in a heartbeat. "You've still got that temper," he murmured, half a smirk, half a wince. Collingwood rose in an instant, the gun trained squarely on him. "You betrayed me once, Jack. Do it again, and I'll finish it." Jack raised his hand slightly. "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be buried." "Then why are you here?" Collingwood snapped, voice razor sharp. Jack took a step forward, each word heavy. "Because you're aiming at the wrong enemy." Florina stepped closer, her expression torn between confusion and fear. "What do you mean?" Jack exhaled slowly, lowering himself into a chair as if his strength was draining. "I mean, the man who destroyed your empire still wears your ring." Collingwood's grip tightened around the gun. "What ring?" Jack looked up, his eyes dark with meaning. He reached into his coat pocket, and something silver caught the dim light. Slowly, deliberately, he tossed it onto the table between them. The sound of metal hitting wood echoed through the room like a gunshot. It was a silver Mafia ring, Collingwood's insignia engraved on the top, unmistakable. But beneath the crest, carved in faint script, was a single name, Florina. The room froze in absolute silence. Collingwood's heart stopped for a second. His gaze shot to her, searching her face for an explanation, for denial, for anything. But Florina's expression turned ghost white. "Explain," Collingwood demanded, voice shaking. Florina's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted to Jack, then back to Collingwood. "That's not mine," she whispered weakly. Jack's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "It was hidden in the vault of the council's archive. Your signature, Collingwood, her name, dated the year you vanished." Collingwood's breath came heavier, chest heaving. "What are you saying?" Jack leaned forward, his tone dark. "I'm saying someone inside your own circle, someone close enough to wear her name under your crest, sold your empire to the council, and used her identity to do it." Florina's eyes widened. "No, that's not possible." Jack looked at her. "Then tell him where you were the night his empire fell." Florina flinched, her breath catching. The twins stirred in the next room, their soft whimpers breaking the deadly silence. Collingwood lowered his gun, but his expression was worse than rage. It was heartbreak twisted into suspicion. "I was running," she whispered finally, "running from them." Jack's lips curved bitterly. "That's the same night your name appeared in the council's files." Collingwood turned away, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. He wanted to believe her. God, he needed to. But the evidence, the ring, the documents, Jack's return, all screamed otherwise. Florina stepped toward him, voice trembling. "You think I'd ever betray you? After everything?" He didn't turn around. "I don't know what to think anymore." Jack stood, his steps slow but deliberate. "You both deserve the truth, but you won't find it by fighting each other. The council played you both. They forged, manipulated, and lied. That ring is only the beginning." Florina looked at him, wary. "Then why bring it now? Why not tell him before?" Jack's gaze hardened. "Because I didn't trust you." The words cut deeper than a knife. Florina's breath hitched. "And you still don't." Jack didn't answer. Collingwood finally turned to face him, his voice cold. "You said someone in my empire wears that ring. Who?" Jack hesitated, his silence louder than thunder. "You're not ready for that name yet." Collingwood stepped closer, rage flickering behind his calm. "Don't play games with me." Jack looked up, expression unreadable. If I give you the name tonight, you won't live long enough to confront them. They're watching every move you make, even here." A red laser dot appeared on Jack's chest, moving slowly up toward his neck. Florina gasped, "Collingwood!" Collingwood dove forward, tackling Jack just as the window shattered. A silenced bullet hissed through the air, embedding itself in the wall behind them. "Down!" Collingwood roared, dragging Florina under the table as glass rained around them. Jack rolled, grabbing a fallen pistol from the floor. "They found us," he muttered, grimacing. "No," Collingwood growled, eyes sharp. "They never lost us." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed outside, soft, methodical, trained. Florina clutched the twins, whispering their names like a prayer. Collingwood and Jack exchanged a look, the kind that only two men who once trusted each other could share. "Can you still shoot?" Collingwood asked. Jack smirked faintly, checking the gun's chamber. "Better than you remember." The door burst open. Muzzles flashed. Chaos returned. Bullets tore through the cabin walls. Collingwood returned fire, his movements precise and vicious. Jack covered the back door, the two men fighting like synchronized shadows. Florina screamed as splinters flew, shielding the children with her body. For every enemy that fell, two more entered. The safe house turned into a war zone. Collingwood's magazine clicked empty. He reached for another, but Jack tossed him one mid-battle, their eyes meeting briefly. Brothers in blood once more. Between bursts of gunfire, Jack shouted, "The man behind this! He's closer than you think!" Collingwood shouted back, "Who?" Jack fired 3 more rounds, ducked behind cover, and yelled over the chaos, "Your own blood!" Collingwood froze. For a second, the world stopped moving. "My blood?" Before Jack could answer, another explosion tore through the side of the cabin, throwing everyone to the ground. Smoke, fire, screams. And amid the chaos, the silver ring rolled across the floor, stopping beside Florina's trembling hand, its engraved name glinting through the flickering light. Florina. Collingwood crawled through the smoke, his vision blurring as Jack's voice faded into the flames. "Your empire wasn't stolen, Collingwood. It was inherited." The fire still licked at the ruins of the safe house when Collingwood's eyes opened. His vision blurred, breath heavy with smoke and blood. For a moment he couldn't tell if he was alive or trapped inside the memory of his own destruction. The floor beneath him was ash and glass, the air filled with the metallic tang of gunfire. Somewhere near, a child cried softly, one of the twins. That sound pulled him back to life. He rolled over, groaning, dragging himself through the haze until his hand brushed against Florina's trembling shoulder. She was awake, eyes wide, clutching the twins close. "They're gone," she whispered. "Jack, the others." Collingwood forced himself upright, the weight of loss pressing on his ribs. "No," he rasped. "Jack's not gone. Not yet." Through the fog, a faint movement appeared. Jack, crawling from the wreckage, his face streaked with soot, blood trickling down his temple. He held something in his hand, a phone, scorched but glowing faintly in the dark. "You need to see this," he muttered, tossing it toward Collingwood. It landed beside him with a thud. The screen flickered, displaying something he hadn't seen in years, his own insignia, the mark of the Collingwood Empire. But beneath it, a code only he and one other person in the world could recognize. His brother's encryption. His blood ran cold. He stared at Florina, confusion and disbelief tightening his voice. "What is this?" Florina swallowed hard, unable to meet his gaze. "It's what they built after you disappeared," she whispered. "They crowned a leader in your absence. They needed someone the world feared, someone who could keep the council from claiming everything." Her hands shook as she pulled something from her coat, a ring identical to his, but darker, forged in secrecy. "They made me that person." Collingwood blinked, his pulse roaring in his ears. "They made you leader?" His voice cracked, not from anger but from a kind of heartbreak that no bullet could cause. Florina's tears fell freely now, dripping onto the ash-stained floor. I took control to keep them from killing the twins. They promised safety if I ruled under your name. His chest tightened as rage and sorrow collided inside him. You ruled my empire? The words escaped like a growl. She stepped closer, trembling. I ruled it for you, she said softly. Every move, every command, every threat. I did it to keep your legacy alive. Jack leaned against the wall, watching the scene unfold with hollow eyes. She was your ghost, boss, he murmured. The world feared her because she carried your fire. Every rival, every ally, they thought you were still pulling the strings. Collingwood turned away, fists clenching. He could still hear the echoes of his men calling his name in the chaos of the past. All the while, it had been her, Florina, the woman he'd thought lost. The woman who had become his shadow. Outside, faint headlights flickered through the trees. Someone was still hunting them. Florina took a shaky breath. You don't understand how deep it went. The council didn't just want your power, Collingwood. They wanted to erase your name, replace it with something they could control. I stood in their way. I wore your crown, your symbol, your fear, until they realized I wasn't you. He turned, his expression breaking through anger into something fragile. And then, they turned on me, she said, her voice barely a whisper. They ordered my execution the night I fled, the same night you found me. Jack looked between them. She wasn't lying, boss. I was there when she made that call. The council wanted her dead because she stopped the deal, the one that would have handed your empire to a rival syndicate. Collingwood's eyes softened, the fury dissolving into something deeper, an ache carved by understanding. For the first time, he saw her not as the woman who vanished, but as the one who kept his empire breathing when he couldn't. He reached out slowly, his hand brushing her cheek. You ruled without me, and you didn't lose yourself. Florina closed her eyes, tears spilling over. I ruled because of you, she whispered, because the world still believed in your name. For a moment silence fell, the kind that felt sacred, but peace was a fragile thing in Collingwood's world. It shattered as quickly as it came. The phone Jack had thrown began to vibrate. Collingwood froze. The sound sliced through the room like a blade. A faint light pulsed across the cracked screen. An incoming call. But what made his blood turn to ice was the caller ID, encrypted line, Waro 9 bloodline. Florina frowned. Who is that? Jack's eyes widened. No one should have that number. That's your... Collingwood's voice dropped to a whisper. That's my brother's code. The room fell deadly quiet. The fire outside crackled in the distance, the only sound between them. Slowly, almost in disbelief, Collingwood picked up the phone. The moment his thumb hovered over accept, the signal spiked. Interference, static. Then a deep, distorted voice. Miss me, brother. The call came from Collingwood's own encrypted phone, one he had buried with his brother years ago. The air turned to glass. Florina's hand flew to her mouth. Jack stepped back, shaking his head. That's not possible. He's dead. I saw the body. But the voice on the other end laughed, low, cruel, and hauntingly familiar. Dead? You of all people should know, Collingwood, ghosts don't die. They just change names. Collingwood's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles went white. Where are you? He growled. The voice chuckled softly. Closer than you think. Look outside. Jack moved toward the window, peering into the darkness, and froze. A figure stood at the edge of the burning forest, a silhouette wearing Collingwood's old coat, holding a phone to his ear. Collingwood's breath hitched. That's impossible, Florina whispered, her voice trembling. "That's your brother's coat." The voice on the line spoke one last time, words dripping like venom. "You built an empire of lies. Brother, now it's time to see who still believes in you." The call ended. The forest fell silent, and Collingwood realized the war wasn't between him and the council anymore. It was between blood and betrayal. Outside, lightning flashed, revealing the shadowed figure walking away, leaving footprints identical to Collingwood's own. 8. The forest was still smoking when Collingwood lowered the phone. His pulse thudded in his ears, louder than the storm that still raged somewhere in the distance. The voice, that voice, had frozen his blood. His brother's voice. The same tone that once commanded armies beside him. The same voice that had gone silent years ago, buried under stone and fire. Now it whispered through a device that should have stayed buried with his past. Florina stood beside him, trembling. "What did he say?" Her voice broke through the silence, fragile and small. Collingwood didn't answer at first. He stared into the darkness beyond the shattered window, his reflection fractured in the glass. Half man, half ghost. "He said—" Collingwood swallowed, his voice hardening. "He said he's been alive all this time." Jack's eyes widened. "That's not possible. I saw his body. We burned it." Collingwood's gaze flicked toward him, sharp as a blade. "Then tell me why he's using my encryption. Tell me why he's watching us right now." Florina's hands shook as she clutched the twins closer. "What does he want?" Collingwood turned to her slowly, the storm outside mirrored in his eyes. "He wants me broken," he said quietly, "and he's close." A soft hum echoed from the phone again. Not a call this time, but a recording. A baby's cry. A woman's laughter. Then his brother's voice. "She was mine before she was yours." Florina's face went pale. "No," she whispered, stepping back. "That's not true." Collingwood's breath hitched, rage clawing up his throat. "He's trying to tear us apart." Jack moved closer, examining the device. "He's toying with you, boss. He's done this before, using emotion as the weapon." Collingwood didn't respond. His mind was already elsewhere, piecing together fragments of betrayal, hidden truths, the way the council had played both sides. But now everything pointed to one shadow, the brother who refused to stay dead. Without warning, the signal on the phone flickered to life again, a red dot glowing on the map screen. A single location pulsed at the heart of the city, his old empire's command base. Jack leaned over his shoulder. "That's where the council used to meet." Collingwood holstered his gun, eyes locked on the coordinates. "Then that's where it ends." Florina reached for him, her fingers brushing his arm. "Don't! He wants you to come to him. That's the trap." He turned, and for a moment his gaze softened. But only for her. "Maybe it is," he said, "but this time I'm the storm." Thunder cracked overhead as he walked out the door, back into the rain, back into the fire that had once made him king. Hours bled into one another as Collingwood moved through the darkened streets. Every step toward the signal was a step into the past. Every memory, every ghost followed. The rain was relentless. It felt almost like a baptism, washing away what was left of the man he used to be. When he finally reached the building, it stood silent, hollow. A skeleton of the empire he once ruled. Inside, flickering lights revealed walls lined with photographs, his empire's history carved into faces and blood. But one picture made him stop cold. Florina, standing beside his brother, both wearing the Collingwood insignia. His hand trembled as he reached out, fingertips brushing the glass. "You were watching even then," he muttered. "From the shadows," a voice answered. "I wasn't watching, I was waiting." Collingwood spun, gun raised, and in there he was, his brother. Same face, same sharp jaw, same eyes, except colder, hollower. "You're dead," Collingwood hissed. The man smiled faintly. Death was just freedom, brother. You buried me to keep your empire clean. I came back to finish what you couldn't." Collingwood's voice was steel. "You came back to destroy everything I built." His brother laughed, soft and cruel. "You built nothing but a throne on lies. Florina was never meant for you. She was mine." Collingwood's heart slammed against his ribs, but he didn't show it. "She chose me." "Did she?" His brother stepped closer, eyes glinting with something dark. The twins, her fear, her silence. "You think she was protecting you?" "No, she was protecting me. They're proof, Collingwood, proof of what you stole." For a second, the world seemed to tilt. His vision blurred. Memories, nights of love, moments of tenderness, all suddenly tangled in suspicion. But then he saw Florina's eyes in his mind, the truth in them, the loyalty that never wavered even through pain. He exhaled slowly. "You're lying." His brother smirked. "Say it again. Maybe you'll believe it." Collingwood's gun didn't shake. "You're lying," he repeated, this time steady as stone. The other man tilted his head. "Then come prove it." A gunfight erupted, flashes of steel and thunder in the dark, two brothers bound by blood and betrayal. The walls shook with violence. Every bullet was an echo of the past, every step a memory crashing down. Collingwood moved like a shadow reborn, his fury controlled, his aim precise. His brother was good, too good, but Collingwood had something he didn't. He had purpose. When the smoke cleared, both men were bleeding, both on their knees. Rain poured through shattered windows, mingling with blood on the floor. His brother coughed, laughing weakly. "You could have ruled the world with me." Collingwood stared at him, chest heaving. "The world means nothing if it costs love." His brother sneered. "Love is weakness." Collingwood's eyes hardened. "No, it's what kept me alive when power couldn't." He stood, pulling himself up despite the pain, and aimed his weapon one last time. "Goodbye, brother." The echo of the final shot vanished into the storm. When Collingwood limped out of the building, dawn was breaking. And for the first time, he wasn't the man who sought vengeance. He was the man who chose peace. Hours later, the world felt different, softer. The sky, still gray, carried light this time. Collingwood returned to the safe house, or what was left of it. Florina rushed to him, her eyes flooding with tears. He looked worn, bloodied, but alive. When she touched his face, he leaned into her hand, exhaling like he was letting go of a lifetime. "It's over," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "No empire, no revenge, only us." She broke down in his arms, sobbing with relief, and for the first time in years, his heart wasn't heavy, it was free. The twins' laughter echoed through the air, innocent, unscarred by the darkness that had built their world. Jack, leaning against the doorway, managed a faint smile. "So this is what peace looks like." Collingwood looked at him. "No," he said quietly. "This is what redemption looks like." Florina kissed his forehead, whispering through her tears, "Welcome home." The storm had finally ended. Just as dawn stretched its first golden light across the wrecked horizon, a black car rolled up to the safe house. The driver stepped out, silent, gloved, and left a small wooden box on the doorstep before disappearing into the mist. Florina bent down, curiosity flickering. "What's this?" Collingwood took the box carefully, his instincts whispering warnings. Inside, resting on a bed of velvet, lay a tiny silver bracelet. Engraved on it was a name, Collingwood Jr. Florina's breath caught. Collingwood's jaw clenched as he stared at the inscription. Beneath the name, faint and almost hidden, was a second engraving, from Uncle. The camera of fate lingered on his face. Realization dawning, peace fracturing. The bracelet gleamed in the morning light as thunder rumbled once more in the distance. hinting that the shadows of the Collingwood bloodline were far from gone. If this story touched your heart, if you felt every heartbeat, every tear, every moment of love and betrayal, then don't forget to subscribe to Heartwoven Tales. Your support keeps these stories alive, stories woven with emotion, pain, and hope. Hit that like button, share it with someone who loves deep storytelling, and tell us in the comments, what part of Collingwood and Florina's journey broke you the most? And what healed you? This is Heartwoven Tales, where every heartbeat tells a story.